Welcome to today's episode where this August 27th, we are here discussing Rick and Morty, the anime series on Adult Swim. The show takes place between season 5 and 6 of the original series. Like its predecessor, the anime revolves around the members of the Smith household, Rick, Morty, Summer, Beth, and Jerry. Unlike the original, however, the anime has not been embraced with the same love by its fans. Why is that?
The choppiness in animation, the voice acting, the story, and kind of it being past the Rick and Morty hype train. A lot of people think that once it hits season 4, that's really when the series should have come out, like right before then. Yeah, and that's when Rick and Morty just kind of went down in quality.
They've still had independently good episodes, right? Like that Pit episode from last year.
The Rick and Morty like quality meter, I feel, is a lot like The Walking Dead after season 4, where it was like you can kind of guess how many episodes are going to be great. Usually it's like 2 are great episodes in Rick and Morty. You can put them against anything in the first 3 seasons and they would be just as good. 2 are going to be pretty good. 4 are going to be bad, and 2 are going to be god awful. That's how I see it, at least.
So it's like you'll almost be ready to never watch it again, and then one to bring you right back on the train, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so what's your favorite episode of Rick and Morty all time?
Probably season 2, episode 6. The Ricks Must Be Crazy.
Season 2 had some crazy episodes.
It was the car motor episode where it was like Inception, where they go through like 5 different worlds. Stephen Colbert is in it.
Yeah, I remember when Mr. Poopy Butthole was introduced, I think in a few episodes before that.
That was Total Rickle, season 2, episode 4.
The first season was also very liked because of Mr. Mises and all that stuff. So I feel like a lot of the fans who might be jumping onto the anime to check it out may have tuned out of the actual Rick and Morty show after the first couple seasons.
I remember that's what Critical said. He said that he hadn't watched it for a couple seasons and he decided to watch this episode.
Okay, because I feel like a lot of the hate may come from those who thought every single episode was a banger. Because anybody who's seen the last few seasons, or at least even perused some of those episodes, knows that this animated series is not as bad as it can get.
I don't know. It has a 2.7 on IMDb with a 16% audience score. Yes, to put that in perspective.
No, I know how bad that is.
No, but I mean, the O'Reilly Factor, Chad, TMZ, The Annoying Orange, internet series, Fox and Friends, The D'Amelio Show, The In-Betweeners, all have higher scores, and those are all on the bottom 100 TV shows. The In-Betweeners US version.
Oh, the US version. That makes more sense. No, I don't want to judge this series based on its animation style. I feel like so many series have come out recently. The Batman series, Harley Quinn, Scavenger's Reign, and every time there's any sort of new animated style, they always get a lot of credit for it, you know?
Right.
People come in and they always use these crazy production studios. Primal used like an international studio.
Fiona and Cake is something that comes to mind. That was my number 1 last year.
I feel like there's nothing super bad about this. You called it choppy earlier, but to me, I just feel like it doesn't really matter. But I don't think that is a negative for them. In fact, I think it is very distinctive. I think maybe you have a lot of fans who are saying the characters don't look anything like themselves, but you can certainly tell who they are. Like Rick is by far the worst, I think, because he doesn't have the same triangle jaw that he has in the show. He now has like a circular ovular shape or like.
Who do you think is most closely related to their character?
Who closely related to their
I would
character?
say Morty looks the most like he does from the anime.
Yes.
Or from the actual show.
He looks the most, but we've gotten the least amount of Morty, except in the first episode where he's in the VR headset. But in the second episode, he's basically not there at all. And so I find the series very distinctive. I think it preserves some of the main aspects that we love in Rick and Morty, which is like the time dilation stuff, the multiverse introduction. You've got a lot of people in superhero genres saying that there's been a multiverse overload, that they have superhero fatigue. But when it comes to the writers, in the original series, I think what's happened the last few years is they've gotten too stuck with so many crazy elements that they've had to revert to like the most cliche ways to end each episode, which really kind of pisses off fans because they become predictable. With this, you could say it's way too confusing, but we're 30 minutes into a 10 episode series, so there's going to be at least however much more. It's like 4 times that, right?
Yeah.
So it feels like if this is a movie, people would not be judging a movie 30 minutes into it.
One complaint that I've read the most is that even though you said that it captures kind of the Rick and Morty spirit, is that fans
The
think
multiverse spirit.
you see, fans think that it hasn't even like scratched the surface. Like it seemed like they got like a synopsis of what Rick and Morty was, and then just decided to make a TV series of it without actually understanding what made the original so successful.
But it also means that those fans are thinking of each universe in Rick and Morty having to follow a certain way of being presented. You know, like the idea of multi universes is that they can spread out crazy, right? And
Right.
so this one or these bunch that they're introducing now could just be existing out there in the ether that we just don't care about too much.
Well, I think they're supposed to be, right? Because this isn't the first episode, and that was probably my favorite part of the whole entire series so far. The first episode ends with them going to like the Cronenberg world,
Yeah, they
right?
did bring back the Cronenberg world, but they also have like Space Summer, which is strange because I know that they have Space Beth, but
Right.
now you suddenly have Summer doing hacking in space, and I don't remember that a lot from the original. They've done some crazy stuff in the original that I didn't like when they had Summer and Morty have a baby. Like,
Right.
there's a lot of strange things that I think for people to be jumping on this show saying we don't like the fact that it what exactly are they even arguing? Because Rick's just an asshole still, and he's set himself up for like the 50th time with a duplicate Rick to go blow up some galactic insect empire. And he himself is this super portal power that he's now trying to search to find that other Rick, which
It
I
might
think
have
is the same
been
story that was going on in 5 and 6 of the original series.
it might have been the expectation that came along with this because what happened was in April 1st, 2018, there was this for part of Adult Swim's April Fool's pranks, they premiered and they called it Bush World Adventures. It was created by Michael Cusack, and it was a Rick and Morty like satire of that he animated, got critical acclaim, and then that's what led them to make the 5 anime shorts from March 2020 to November 2021. And again, Takashi Sano, he worked on 2 of those, and they were the same animation, same people that voiced this, so he
So do
bought
you
them
know
over.
how he became from getting 2 out of the 5 shorts to being the show creator of this?
I think it was because people were most excited for his. In fact, they even released the intro. They premiered it at Comic-Con in like 2023. But I think that when you look at the series as a whole, people are just saying this doesn't fit with what we are with normally.
Well, no one's seen it as a whole yet. They're jumping on the first 2 episodes. They're saying there's elements to this that I'm not recognizing or that feel very odd. And I just don't think they're giving it enough of a break. It's too early to tell. And so, like the references that we're getting, even as we go along, I'm enjoying those. There's Akira explosions. There's Sword Art Online for sure with Rick and Morty's, or with Morty's storyline with the girl Elle, I think her
Right,
name,
yeah.
or Ellie. There's the callbacks to the actual Rick and Morty episodes that you with the Cronenberg world, the Fate series, Cowboy Bebop, when Summer is there and suddenly there's an ad for like, it's not a bounty hunter ad, but it's a type of like money thing that an insect is selling to her. Citizen Kane. Remember when Rick and when he's
Yes.
stuck in that, or and Morty does the same thing that he does in the original series, where he gets stuck in a VR and he lives out his life. But in this one, I guess because he's already done that other one, the boring Morty version, he lives it out as being this successful black and white newspaper person. And
But I think that's what people have a problem because when you're
they
talking
didn't
about
like that.
when you're talking about the first episode, especially how he has to keep on going back to him being old. If you remember, like he's always balding, and then that one person comes in and kind of tries to save him.
Uh-huh.
People, I think, just
Frank.
it's Frank. I think people just get too annoyed
But
with
that
it.
was after the kaiju monster was like attacking. Do you realize how insane this sounds? Like just the plot and how like creative that is in and of itself. I don't want to bash the show because people are upset that it seems odd.
So okay, you've mentioned what you like about the show. What do you not like about the show?
What do I not like about the show? It feels a little forgettable. Like I'm never going to forget that the anime exists, but I right now understand the confusion comes with the fact that like I could never talk about this again. It feels like the later seasons of Rick and Morty, where there are episodes you could tell me I've seen and I would completely blank them out.
Right.
Because they're just, it doesn't do the story justice yet. There's no like cliffhanger of it or anything. And then Morty barely being in that second episode does feel like a downer. It feels like it's not Rick and Morty without Morty in it. I I do feel like they are repeating a lot of storyline. Rick fighting himself. We've seen
Always happens. It's literally every single
with Mullet
episode.
Rick this time. So the second episode, that kind of felt like a rehash of stuff. Rick outsmarting the aliens. That's nothing new. It's like watching Doctor Who. And then Morty getting stuck in another video game. I already mentioned that. The Galactic Federation being the main villains. We've seen that plenty of times. That's why I think, like, in the intro, my favorite part is seeing the time clock going backwards, because it does mix that traditional anime rewind thing with Rick and Morty, which we've seen, and give you the opportunity, because there is going to be that relationship with Morty and Elle that I think is going to be stronger than anything we've seen with him and, like, the bird girl lady, Tanny? What?
Yeah, well,
It is Tammy. I'm
yeah,
pretty sure.
no, I know.
Yeah, she's in the second episode a lot.
What my question was that, do you think this would have been better as like an episode of Rick and Morty as opposed to like a series?
It was already the season 5, episode 10.
But
that
that
was
didn't-
Rick
that-
Morai Jack, Samurai Jack type of anime. Wasn't a big fan of the crows being his, like, number 2. People seem to like that episode though.
Yeah, it was a high rated episode.
Yeah,
It was
and
like
I wouldn't say
9.4.
that I disliked this show more than I liked that episode, because that one felt like a departure in and of itself with that Rick. Because we know that Rick. So when they start screwing over the Rick that we know in the original series, I'm much more lenient to watching this and just seeing where it turns out.
It's funny you say that, because I know a well-known theory of Rick and Morty is that we actually don't follow the same people every single episode. We follow different Ricks and different Mortys. Like the one that we started out with in season 1 is not the same that we're starting out with now.
No, I believe that.
But I think that it maybe would have worked in one of the episodes where they do the multiverses and they go to different universes as maybe like a 5-minute thing, almost like an Across the Spider-Verse type of cameo, rather than it just being a full series. I don't think. I think.
What do you mean? They've done that a billion times.
The main thing is just that the characters, and I know I've said it before, but the characters do not look the same and they do not sound the same, even if you do the English dub.
The English dub makes it sound like the people were trying to do their best impressions, but they didn't get the best actors. And it is ironic that because you have Justin Roiland leaving the series a few years ago and they replaced him, and you can barely tell that with Rick and Morty, because they did such a good job voicing them, that they weren't able to get people who are more on top of the Japanese dub, or that they couldn't get the actual actors and actresses. Well, was there a reason behind that?
Well, they did get for the Japanese dub someone who plays Rick, someone who dubs a lot of famous people in for Japanese films. For example, he did Clint Eastwood in the Dollars trilogy, Dirty Harry the Mule. He does William Dafoe and Steve Buscemi a lot for things he has to dub there, and he even did Stannis in Game of Thrones. Yohei Tadano was the person that dubbed Rick in the Japanese anime.
Yeah.
So it's like they got people, I think, that have, and he was the same person who dubbed the shorts, and like I said, he bought over the same cast from that. But I don't think for the English dub they did the same thing. I think they just got people that they thought would sound the best, but they don't.
So by the end of the first episode, I really didn't care, and it was different than when, like, Dan Stevens replaced Justin Roiland in Solar Opposites.
Right.
I felt like I was feeling like that was weird for at least half a season. So this, I would say, is less bad than that if you watch the English dub. If you listen to the Japanese one, it's strikingly different. And so I stuck with the English one because I heard that you only get the swear words if you listen to the English dub. And also it's fun to keep the Japanese translation down, because then you get two different lines sort of saying the same thing, but sort of not.
You can tell with the what they're supposed to be saying, and there's like the little differences with the English dub. So I did think that was cool as well. I think my favorite parts of the episodes, as I stated, I even like the ending scene where you see Birdman in the second episode. I just feel like the series is unnecessary, but what would you give your rating?
I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10 just to spite the naysayers. I'm not going to continue probably to watch it, but because I unless it's like a 7 or an 8 or more, but it's perfectly fine for what it is. If you're not a fan already, you'll probably check out really fast. If you are a fan, but only the first few seasons, you'll probably check out really fast. If you've stuck with Rick and Morty all throughout and you're kind of just cool with whatever, I think you'll really like the series. That's my
Yeah, I mean
that's my
that is such a hard to come by like niche audience.
is
I
it?
feel like
How many people watch it nowadays?
a
20
lot
million?
less than
30 million?
people in season 3. I would have to give the series like a 3 out of 10, but you're actually in line a little more with what the critic said. It has a 60% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Nice.
And IGN Movies gave it a 7 out of 10. They said it was never boring. So,
Okay, too early to tell if it's boring. 15-minute episodes, guys. Those are like SpongeBob level episodes. You can watch it without wanting to turn it off.
I think FandomWire.com put it bluntly. They said the main question fans will be asking when they watch Rick and Morty the anime is why. So far, there's not a good reason. They
The amount of merchandising on this program, they have their own comic books, they have their own lunch boxes. It's basically the Spaceballs effect where like they sold Rick and Morty as soon as it got like a billion episodes greenlit, it was everywhere, right? I'm surprised there's not like its own Disney World.
They
There's
also
probably a Rick and Morty world in the works if it's not already existing.
Well, they called it derivative. Do you feel? I mean, and that's kind of a con that you said that you had.
Yeah, it's
So.
it's a little derivative. Again, a 6 out of 10 is not anything just above maybe regular normal TV, and I'm just saying that because of all the references. Kind of the fact that it exists is kind of a miracle to think about. How this little tiny show, this short, kind of like The Simpsons, just exploded over time. And I don't know how much of its original base is there. One thing I would recommend for the actual show not to do is to keep having those extra segments at the end where Dan Harmon and the rest of the writer staff come in there clapping themselves on the back and telling about how they came up with these great jokes, especially when they don't know how the episodes are going to do. So like when the Ice-T episodes come out and they're saying how funny the jokes are at the end.
That's just an add-on that it seems like every HBO. I know House of the Dragon has that as well.
House of the Dragon is great though. I really enjoyed the first season of that, and I'm going to check out the second season. I heard that's just as good.
I think this may be the biggest difference in opinion that you've had from the audience possibly ever. But hey, to each their own.
Yes, and the next show we're doing is also going to be a translated one, but it's going to be on City of God.
Ciudad de Deos, yeah.
Okay. Thanks for listening. We'll see you on the next episode. Hope you enjoyed this one. Bye.
Bye.